Hello YouTube, it's Charles Finch. How are you doing? I'm doing great. Everything's perfect. So, I'm gonna introduce villain number 28. She was in court and has been executed. And now she lives as a ghost and a memory. This is Agatha Prendergast. Yeah, well, that's something. So, here it is. Agatha Aggie Prendergast is the main former antagonist of Laika's second full-length animated feature film Paranorman. She is not really evil or cruel, but she does seek revenge on the town of Blith Hollow and Judge Hopkins. She does not even know that she is doing the wrong thing, but she never wanted to hurt Norman Babcock. So much, not even when she was in her witch form or an evil ghost. Right. So, Aggie was an 11-year-old girl who lived with her mother in Blith Hollow, Massachusetts. Similar to her distant relative Norman Babcock, Agatha has the ability to speak to the dead. Her abilities, however, caused fear among the superstitious townsfolk who began to believe she was practicing witchcraft. It was reasonable that during the old times, Blith Hollow feared the strange, non-understandable indifference of other beings, including, at this pilgrim age, the supernatural, a fact which made the Blith Hollow citizens, except Aggie's mother, believed that how she can speak to the dead was due to demonic forces. Yeah, so they believe that she is practicing witchcraft to speak to dead people, you know. So that's what they believed, except for her mother. So, demonic forces in her body. Eventually, Agatha was brought on trial and testified against by 6 witnesses. The town judge Hopkins found Agatha guilty and sentenced her to execution. During the trial, as what Aggie herself shown to Norman, as well as disturbing visions that Norman had in the middle of rehearsal of his school play, it was implied that Agatha is also usually said to be playing in the woods, alone, physically. Before she was hanged, Agatha threatened vengeance upon her accusers. It is unknown if her mother knew of her daughter being held in court, and what more unknown if her mother knew of Agatha's death, since she is buried in an unmarked grave under an old tree, where Aggie states during her resolution is the tree where her mother used to tell her happy stories when she was alive. So this is one of the tragic villains that I've seen. She was sent to court and was sentenced to execution. So the people of Blith Hollow are witnessed by her demonic forces of witchcraft, and they believe it was the horrible crime. I mean, this was in the old days. Well, anyway, after her execution, Agatha's ghost cursed her accusers to rise from the grave as the living dead, so as to experience the same prejudice they had put her through. After death, her accusers felt remorse over their actions. Aggie's story was told over the generations, except with Aggie represented as an evil witch rather than an innocent victim. Eventually, the story became a tradition for the town. Okay, as a ghost. After her execution, a person bearing the same powers as hers visits her grave before sunset and tells a storybook so that the curse will delay into another year. Mr. Prendergast, Norman's uncle, before the events of the movie, met Aggie and is forced to continue putting her to sleep to prevent the curse, while others think that he is crazy. Years pass, and on the 300th anniversary, Mr. Prendergast confronts his nephew, only needed him to be his successor. After Norman fails to visit her grave before sunset, Aggie starts the curse and brought back from the dead the people who have offended her. Norman then tries to stop her by trying to tell the story atop the town hall, but she just electrocutes him to see her backstory. After Norman told that the zombies are not evil people, Aggie went berserk and madly destroys Blith Hollow, especially the statue about her as a witch. Norman then visits her grave and tries to talk her by telling the story of Sleeping Beauty. She then grew tired of the story and says she wanted to destroy Blith Hollow. Norman continues to confront her by telling a new story, which is none other than her backstory that portrays her negativity. Truth behind her myth, which drove her angrier and tries to get Norman away from her, but then realizes that he is right. He told her that although they did something awful, it does not mean that she should too. And she has to remember not just the bad people, but also the good ones that she'd forgotten. Aggie reminisces to Norman that before she died, her mother took her to a tree, the same one that she was buried under. There, her mother told her stories that always had happy endings. Aggie was able to find peace that allowed her to finally lift the curse and move on to the afterlife along with the 7 who had wrongfully accused her of witchcraft. Okay, her personality. At the start of the film, her personality depicted as a stereotypical witch's. However, those depictions are wrong, as in truth, she is dimmed, honest, cowardly, empathetic, and sweet, as well as sensitive due to her powers. After her death at the hands of Judge Hopkins and other judges, she became a violent, impatient, unscrupulous, uncontrollable, and hot-tempered girl, whose powers became destructive due to her rage. However, she didn't lose her humanity yet, as when Norman calmed her down, and she reveals her former nature as she regained her composure. So she wasn't really that hot. Before she went hot-tempered, because her accusers and even Judge Hopkins are the ones who feel guilty, because they believed they were doing what was right. But now that they've realized that they were wrong, and now the execution of her is now their punishment. They just executed an 11-year-old girl who they thought was a witch, talking to the dead. I kind of feel sorry for her, you know, because they made her. Well, that's it. And this is one of her quotes. "Leave me alone, or I'll make you sorry. I'll make all of you sorry."